We are working. Okay. I think we're live. It's telling me I'm live, and there's some live people in the chat room. So good morning, everybody from everywhere. The UK people, I thought it was quite late in the UK. So just a minute, I'll just turn off my things, notifications. And I'm assuming that you can all hear me okay. I thought I did turn off my sounds. So just give me a thumbs up if you would, that this technology is, yep, great. Thanks, Jill or Gil. And I'm just going to turn off myself here. Where am I? I go do not disturb somewhere. Where do I go? Do not disturb. Okay. Do not disturb. So I hope you've all not disturbing yourselves with your phones or anything else. Have an opportunity to come together in this meditation. And just give a couple of minutes for the notification to go out. And then while we're waiting, I just want to mention today, I thought, especially thinking about technology and phones and social media and everything else that the world is currently immersed in, embroiled in, it has an impact on the psyche, which I'm sure most of you would be aware of, so that this won't come as a huge surprise. But it has a very powerful and profound effect on our psyche, our whole physiological and mental system. And those of you who spend a lot of time on computers for work should be, hopefully, aware of how that impacts the way you feel, your whole energy system. And, I'm not going to go on about all the intricacies of that, but needless to say, it does deplete our energies in very subtle and not so subtle ways. The not so subtle ways are the things that perhaps cause the most damage, and they become, they're happening in the background and are eroding so much of the quality of our lives as well as our health. So that's why, it's really important not to OD on technology, whether that just be the vibrations, the energy that these machines give out, or the toxic environment that exists in social media platforms, as most of you would be aware of, and the need to take yourself away from those environments, because they are a cesspool of toxicity. And so today's meditation I was going to offer it as a way of balancing and healing a lot of these energy imbalances. And this particular meditation was requested actually by a listener, and I was aware of it in a different context, but it inspired me to look more into it and revisit it. And it was a meditation that was given to a Zen master called Master Hakuin. And those of you in the Zen tradition or the Buddhist tradition will probably be aware of this meditation. It's called the soft butter method meditation. And it was given to Master Hakuin by a master he met, because Hakuin was suffering from what was called Zen sickness or meditation sickness. In those days, they never had social media, but the meditators, the Buddhist masters and practitioners were pushing themselves really hard, and he pushed himself so hard that it caused severe imbalances in his energy system, and no doctors could help him. So he went in search of someone who could, and this wise sage who lived in the mountains as a hermit gave him this meditation method which helped heal him. And the same master who gave it to him had also been suffering from pushing himself so hard. So just briefly, what had happened energetically was, if any of you are familiar with Chinese medicine or Taoist alchemy, or just the way that the body, the elements work in the body, the fire, earth, water, air, and metal, they also have in Chinese medicine. When these are out of balance, which they are to some degree or another in most people, and it swings, obviously, some days the elements are more in balance. But when we become sick, it means the elements are very much out of balance. So this Hakuin, Zen Master Hakuin, had pushed himself so hard that how it was explained was that the fire element, which has a tendency to rise, fire rises and moves upward. It was all moving upward from his lower dantian or lower energy systems and parching his lungs and his heart. And it was causing him exhaustion and depletion. So this master taught him how to bring the yin element or the water element down to cool and to meet the fire and to create that balance. Now, the interesting thing about that imbalance, the fire, too much fire, it's what's happening in the world today on a large scale. It's kind of, it's the what do they say? Anyways, it's kind of the dominant thing within the consciousness, particularly within the Western psyche. And but you could say it's happening all over the world because of technology, because of rationality, hyper rationality, over intellectualizing everything. It's creating a preponderance of this fire element. So, and you can just, without having to kind of believe or disbelieve this, just to check it out in your own experience. When we're constantly thinking, engaging, conceptualizing, worrying, anxiety, which is, the thing that's dominating mental health, you have this fire element coming up into the head, into the heart, and creating, if you think of a bushfire, and most Australians don't have to think too hard about that, or Californians, it creates this kind of hot heat energy, which, when that energy is in balance, it can be a great source of power and movement. But when it's out of balance, it just burns everything. So it's the same within our bodies. When our fire element is out of control with thinking and doing, and the fire that technology and social media and all these gadgets create, we're living, the fire's going up, we're living in our heads, it's burning our hearts, it's burning our lungs, and we lose groundedness, we lose balance. So I was thinking it's a similar thing that was happening energetically to Master Hakuin, but the causes and conditions are quite different. And but the cure's the same. We need to just get these energy systems back into balance within ourselves and find the coolness, the balance within. So bringing the water element down, which we'll do in this particular meditation, is the way of the fire and the water kind of intermingling, if you like, and balancing. We're not trying to get rid of the fire. We need fire. You talk about fire in the belly. We need it for motivation, for excitement and enthusiasm, for clarity, all the good stuff that fire and light bring. But when it's out of balance, it just sears everything, rages through everything. And so that water needs to come back down. So I hope that makes sense. That's where this meditation is coming from and what it's helping us all to do. And because we live in a global community and we're affected by the collective consciousness, even if we're not on social media or using a lot of technology, we're still impacted by the energy around us, and you can feel it. It's like everybody's on fire, arguing, dissing each other, getting upset, raging, violence. This is the fire element, out of control. Right? Or you could say in the Buddhist system, it's the defilements burning. So in that sense, you don't have to take it personally as a personal kind of shortcoming or failure. It's just understanding that we are an amalgam of elements. And in the Taoist system, we need to bring those elements into balance, into harmony. And if we can bring that balance and harmony within ourselves, we contribute to the collective consciousness, to the global output. Okay? Well, we don't have to think about changing the whole world and putting the fires out that way. That's impossible. But we just put the fire out within ourselves. And that's a great gift. Okay? So there's a few comments going on there which I can't take in at the same time. And that's interesting, because if I split my attention, just the fire element would be going all over the place. So I invite you all to just come into a comfortable seated position if you can for this soft butter method meditation. And I'll guide you through it. And if you can turn off any other distractions, and including my visual, just to close your eyes, if you can, if there's people around you, just to give yourself a quiet space, don't look at the chat, don't, I don't know, many people do this, but, being on the phone and doing one thing and doing the other, that's all that imbalance. So just to come into doing one thing and to switch off. And all you need to do is just follow the guidance and listen to my voice in the way that it'll guide you through your own experience, and bring these elements within ourselves into balance and harmony. So sitting with a spine straight if you can. This will support your practice. Putting all other distractions down. Closing your eyes, because this is a visualization. So you'll need to have your eyes closed for this. And just begin by noticing the very temperature in your body, whether it's hot or cold, and whether the heat element within your body is comfortable or uncomfortable. And so just endeavor to just be comfortable, but we don't have to keep shifting until it's perfect. Just good enough. And noticing the fire element of the thoughts, how much the thoughts are racing, if they're burning, and restlessness. We're just noticing all of these things to begin with, without judging them as a failure or as an achievement. If you're cool and calm, just notice I'm cool and calm. If you're restless and anxious, just notice, okay, this is just happening now. And the awareness itself is what's most important. No fighting the fire, just noticing. And if you can keep your body still and comfortable for this short meditation and upright, that will really help as well. And to begin with, we'll just start by taking a few conscious deep breaths to allow the breath to help ground and soothe the energy system. And if you can breathe in deeply from through your nose, but if you can breathe in from your belly, we'll at least notice when you breathe in deeply, if it's a relaxed breath, a conscious breath, you'll notice that your belly expands. And when you breathe out, your belly will relax and go back to normal. So we'll try just to do this 3 times, 3 deep conscious breaths, breathing from the belly. The belly expanding. And as we breathe out consciously, slowly and deeply, the belly relaxes and goes back to its normal position. And so do this yourself a few times. And when you've done that a few times, just allow your breath to become natural and normal again. But even as you're breathing just normally, see if you can breathe in a relaxed way from your belly, not in a forceful way, but the belly breathing is the default way to breathe when we're relaxed. And if you've ever watched a baby or a small child, this is how they breathe. They breathe deeply and slowly from their belly. But as we lose that connection sometimes, when we're anxious or speedy, we tend to breathe from the upper chest in rapid movements. And so we're not nourishing the body system anymore, the chi. So just this very conscious breathing from the belly can be a meditation in itself. And if you do it for 10, 15 minutes, you'll notice a huge change in your well-being. And it will bring great benefits to your health. So now we'll move into the soft butter method visualization. And as I guide you through this visualization, don't stress too much if you find that you're not a very visual person. Just allow however you respond to be okay, in the sense that you might just feel what I'm saying rather than to be able to visualize anything in particular. And that's just fine. And each time you do this, if you do it again, it'll be different. So no controlling, just allowing and receiving whatever comes in the meditation. So imagine above your head that there's an object shaped like an egg, made out of soft, pure butter. And this is placed just above your head. And due to the warmth of your body, this butter egg begins to melt. And as it melts slowly, just feel it going down from the top of your head, all over the scalp, running down the back of your head, creating a warm, exquisite sensation. The butter melting over your forehead, over your eyes and eyelids, your temples, your nose, cheeks, your lips, down to your chin. So your whole face and head, within and without, permeated by the feel and sensations of this soft, melting butter, flowing down, continuing to flow down into your throat, flowing down from your throat over both your shoulders. Feel it moving down slowly, soothing and warming both inside and outside your shoulders. From your shoulders, the butter oozes down over your upper arms, warming and soothing, flowing down into your elbows, all the way down into your forearms, within and without, your wrists, and trickling down into both hands, the palms of the hands, the tops of the hands, all the way to each fingertip. Feel the trickling warmth of the butter melting all the way into your hands. And now you can notice as the butter is moved down from your throat, it's flowing down over your chest area, within and without. Feel it flowing down into your chest, over your heart, flowing down into the kidneys, the liver, all of the diaphragm, the spleen, into the intestines, the stomach, all the way down into all the organs, the reproductive organs, the bones, the bone marrow. The warm, soft, pure butter oozing down, flowing down, bringing its soothing, cooling energy. Allowing all the organs to become into balance as the fire and the water intermingle, bringing harmony and balance into the body. And the butter oozing down from the back of your neck, over your upper back, all of the muscles in your upper back soothed, nourished, down into the middle back, the butter flowing down all the way through the spinal column, through each vertebra. You can feel it flowing, trickling down, all the way into your lower back. It moves in a very slow, calm way. No forcing, no hurrying. Everything just flowing easefully and gracefully. As it moves down through all of your organs, through the whole spinal column, feel it moving down now into your pelvis, into your lower body, the buttocks, the sitting muscles, filling up the lower part of the torso. As it keeps moving, trickling down into your thighs. Slowly it moves from the top of your thighs, within and without, the front, the back, completely immersed and covered by this warm, soft butter. Flowing down into your knees, the backs of your knees, all the way down into your shins and calves, within and without. You're noticing that tingling, that oozing sensation as the butter melts all the way down into the lower legs, into the ankles, and coming to rest into both feet, from the tops of the feet to the soles of both feet, all the way to the tips of your toes. So as you survey your whole body now, you can feel that you're immersed in this warmth, like being immersed in a warm bath with just the perfect temperature. It's soothed all the way from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. The body feeling completely relaxed, completely in balance and harmony. Sometimes you can even hear the sounds within your own organs of like water trickling down. As the nervous system relaxes, quite often we can just hear this gurgling sensation. And this is the water element being able to do what it does naturally, move downwards. It provides the soothing, balancing effect to the rising fire. And you can just bask and relax in this sensation all over your body. If there's any tendencies or habitual patterns that you notice where the fire rises up and you feel that momentum of wanting to think or worry or plan, and you can feel that movement of fire. Just notice that. That's the fire element rushing up into the head, into the heart, creating a sense of pressure or restlessness. When you notice that, if that happens, just be glad that you can see this fire and just cool it again by bringing the energy down. Just imagine the butter is flowing down to cool that fire, to balance that fire, moving down. And you feel the harmony and the equilibrium return into the body, into the whole energy system. This naturally quenches the fires. We don't fight fire with fire in this instance. we just quench it and cool it. By bringing that focus of the soft butter down. And we find that perfect balance of the yin and the yang. The yang being the fire element, and the yin being the water element. Intermingling in perfect balance. And the breath is always there. The belly breathing is the way just to stabilize these two energies of fire and water. And the belly helps bring us into that lower part of the body, the dantian, feeling stable, centered. And relaxed. So we'll finish this meditation just as we started, by taking 3 conscious, slow breaths from the belly, in through the nose, and relaxing the belly on the out breath. And then if you need to move or stretch, please do so. So I hope that was a helpful meditation for you to feel a balance again. And just to mention that I'll create, or in the process of creating, a proper recording. So I'll be posting this particular meditation on my channel in the next few days. And onto Google Drive. So you can feel free to listen to that regularly, practice that regularly, which is recommended if you're unwell or exhausted, or out of balance, which most people are in one way or the other. The practice of this particular meditation is very helpful for healing so many sicknesses and just general depletion and exhaustion. So I'll provide a much more professional recording of that, which you can put on your MP3 player or something and practice regularly. So if there's any questions or comments related to that particular meditation or something else, let's see how we go for the Q&A. Yeah, so someone's mentioned, Janara's mentioned, it's interesting how the breath balances and grounds us. Exactly. It's the source of life energy, isn't it? And when the breath is out of harmony, or when we breathe from here, or even stop breathing sometimes, that's when the body is under stress and the mind can't think straight either. So breathing is essential for life. And they say, and I think in the Taoist system, that the slower and deeper one breathes and the slower one moves, the longer the life is. So if you think about those creatures in nature, like the tortoise, they live the longest, don't they? The ones that move fast, like flies, only live a few 48 hours or something. So the deeper, the slower the breathing, the slower we move consciously, the more we conserve energy. So lots of thank yous. You're most welcome. Some people are going off to bed. It's a perfect thing to do before bed. Okay, so there's a question. What is meant by parinibbana? Okay. So in the Buddhist system, parinibbana is it's really just the dropping of the body. Really, it's the final nibbana. When they say that the Buddha entered parinibbana, he dropped his body. He didn't have a form anymore. So the whole question, where did the Buddha go? We won't get into that. And what is nibbana? It's to be experienced for oneself, he said. But the final nibbana is he lived to 85 years or something, and he dropped his physical form. Even though he dropped the body, my glasses just broke. Isn't that interesting? They just snapped like that. Wow. What was I saying? Oh, yes. Yeah, so his influence continues to this very day. So anyway, big question straight after a butter meditation. So just the awareness of the basic physical mechanisms is grounding. Exactly. So it's just bringing awareness into, I'm not sure, some of you might have started to notice the fire element, how when we think, conceptualize, start to go, what's this, what's that, oh, I've got to do this, everything starts burning up. And to be aware of that, not to fight it and not to judge it, just to go, wow, okay, there's this restless energy, there's this speedy energy, just noticing that and bringing it down into a grounding is the whole practice of it. Okay. Just looking for some questions here. So Medical Animal has asked, would you say that engaging in a lot of concepts in my day-to-day life makes this imbalance you're talking about? I'm a medical student and sometimes feel like studying makes thoughts race more. Absolutely, it does. But it's not to say that studying and concepts are bad or wrong. It's the imbalance. So after a whole day of having your head in concepts, your brain feels a bit fried by the end of it. And if you're looking at a screen, it even intensifies that. We often don't even read books anymore. We read on the screen. And that has other effects. So we have to just balance it, 3 hours of study and then go for a walk, go for a swim, go for a massage, meditate, do a yoga nidra, go into nature. Otherwise it's unbalanced, that's all. It's all, life is really about balance. It's not saying that anything in particular is inherently bad or wrong, and that we have to stop thinking and forget concepts. It's not. It's just seeing if we're overly focused and worshipping concepts and rationality, we lose touch with the intuitive part. We lose touch with the nature, with what they'd call the feminine aspect of our, within us. So this masculine, feminine, this yin and yang, has to come into balance. So too much racy, speedy yang energy is not good, and it's kind of a reflection of the collective psyche, and we have to bring that balance in. So that's what the whole Buddha meditation was taught for. The fire snapped your glasses. It might have. Oh my God! No, look what just happened. These like El Cheapo glasses from the chemist. They were like only like, I'm going to have to go and get my other ones in a minute. It is actually heating up here. We're moving into summer. So they're so cheap. They probably just snapped. Like that. Okay. I can see the comments just without my glasses. They're quite cute glasses. They had a little bamboo, I like bamboo frames, but they're not good lenses. So perhaps it's telling me don't wear them because they're probably not good for my eyes. I need proper prescription ones. Okay, where am I? How interesting that the focus on the body is a way of losing it. Noticing it is impermanent. I'm not sure what you mean, Leslie. How interesting that the focus on the body is a way of losing it, noticing it is impermanent. Yeah, we certainly, if we, I think you're implying that when we go deeper into meditation, the solidity of the body disappears. It doesn't become, in our perceptions anyway, this solid mass. You start to notice the more vibrational effect, the wave-like nature of the body. And then the deeper you go, not for this particular meditation, we want to stay connected with those flowing vibrations. But in other meditations, you can go that the whole body just disappears into space, into the space element. So I think that's where you're coming from. Meditation so powerful that the glasses broke. Maybe, I don't know. I think they're just cheap glasses. Question. Are there levels of nibbana, like supreme nibbana or ordinary nibbana? Nibbana is nibbana, but I don't want to get too much into this question because it is a bit conceptual. If we're just thinking about nibbana, I would encourage you to go and listen to the recent posting of Ajahn Buddhadasa, who talks about nibbana. It's called Nibbana for Everyone. So he makes it very grounded because he was a very grounded teacher. And he asks us to notice those mini nibbanas, temporary nibbanas, where the fires go out. It's interesting, isn't it? He's talking about the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion, which is in the Buddhist framework. But it's the same thing. It's fire of movement, of desire, anger. And when we cool it, like we did in that meditation, it's a cooling, it's a going out of those fires. It's the cooling of those fires. And nibbana simply, as the word itself, was always just meant the cooling or the quenching of fire. So yes, if someone is in what you would call the final nibbana of the Buddha, parinibbana, as I just talked about, or someone who's always abiding in that state of coolness, of nibbana, where the fires have been totally quenched. Okay, but we can all experience temporary nibbana, where we disappear, in the sense of disappear those fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. And there's just that quiet, empty spaciousness that's beyond the concept of nibbana, okay? It is to be experienced for oneself. It's beyond words, beyond concepts, but we know it. And we can talk about it as a quenching, as a cooling of the fires. So that Buddha meditation just takes you into that cooling stream of nibbana. And you notice the deeper you go into it, the more the concepts disappear, the more the sense of this ego disappears. And that is a taste of nibbana. It's nothing, we should, as he says in that talk, Ajahn Buddhadasa, do away with all these false concepts and ideas of nibbana. And there's so many misunderstandings of it, or nirvana, as a lot of people know it as the Sanskrit. Okay. Where are we gone? Okay. Thinking as a tool is great. Yeah, as a tool, it's enabled us to do so much. Good as well as not so good in this world. Again, it's this balance. If we use thinking, overuse it, or use it for evil, it's a great tool to bring harm into the world, but it's a great tool to bring great advancements. It's like this internet. Some great things, not so great things, as we know. Money, nothing's inherently good or bad. It's just how we pick it up, how we use it. Okay, so Phoebe's got a question. Please, can you explain how abortion is perceived in Buddhism? What is the view on this? Sorry if it's a heavy question. Thank you. Okay, yeah, it is. It's a difficult question. And I guess within Buddhism, we do certainly have those precepts to not harm or kill any living being. However, Buddhism is also not a fundamentalist religion. It can be, depends on the person, but the Buddha was never fundamentalist and would always ask people to look at intentions in any of these actions. So it always comes down to intention. So I don't want to speak, I wouldn't, as a Buddhist nun, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't encourage abortion, but I would also never want to judge another person's decision. There's so much around abortion, as we know, and a person's circumstances, how the pregnancy came to be, whether it was through rape or incest. I've been burning a lot of incense, sorry. Incest. The age of the child, the health of the baby, the health of the mother. So it's not a black and white question or answer. It always comes down to intention. If the intention of someone in killing something is simply to kill and harm and hurt, then it's clearly a harmful intention. But if the intention is for all these other myriad reasons, then that's the decision of the person to make with wisdom. And anybody who's telling you what you shouldn't do just because of a belief system, religious, political, or otherwise, it's not their decision to make, it's your decision. The only thing we encourage within Buddhism is always look at right intention. And right intention means the intention not to cause harm, to bring harm. But that doesn't always mean the act itself. You can't just look at the act. For example, let's move away from abortion because it's a little bit more complicated. A child's running onto the road, about to get hit by a truck, and a mother or a parent grabs the kid by their hair because that's the first thing they can grab, drags them back and screams at them, "Don't you do that," or yells at them before they're about to run onto the road. On the surface, it looks like an act of violence, but the intention was to save that life, that child's life. So you can never judge something on how it appears. You always have to know the intention of the person. And at that level, really only the person can know that for themselves, or a very wise person that can read someone else's mind. So it's a personal, individual choice. And just to look honestly at one's intention, that's all. And to pick up wisdom teachings in a way that helps you. It doesn't scare you or turn you into a fundamentalist anything. So I hope that's helpful, Phoebe. Okay. Yeah, so grounding is very important, touching the ground. Yeah, that's why going for a walk, touching the earth, is a meditation in itself and could just help ground our energy. So Isaac, I don't know if I should read this question out, Isaac. I don't mean to embarrass you, but he found it a bit erotic. But that's okay because, I mean, I don't know what people do in sex these days. I don't do sex, but yeah, I imagine that sometimes butter and chocolate can be used in sexual acts. But when we do this, it can bring up these kind of feelings of sexual energy. It's not to kind of freak out and think that's bad or wrong or not spiritual, because the sexual energy is natural and it can bring that into such balance that it can feel kind of, if not erotic, sort of orgasmic. Just go with it, you know. But don't get, if you start to have kind of full body orgasms, which is kind of can happen with some people, and it's more common in women than men. Just don't get addicted to it. Just it happens, okay. And it's just energy flowing, and try not to couple it with any kind of fantasies in the mind. Just be with the pure energy of you can call it sexual energy, but it's just energy. It's all the add-ons that make it a problem. So it can release what's called, the Kundalini energy and give rise to feelings of ecstasy. This is what happens, natural. It doesn't happen for everyone, so don't go looking for it, or don't go getting upset or depressed if you don't get ecstasy. Not everyone gets it, we're all so different. Coolness and calmness is good, if you get that, that's good enough. Everything changes too, so whatever you get today you won't get tomorrow. So, question: love focusing in the fire element. What do you think about meditating a little bit high? I'm not sure. If you mean on drugs, then clearly not. I'm sorry to say. It's all unnatural here. The problem with drugs, there's so many problems with drugs. One, you get you're becoming dependent on a substance. And they're toxic, really, so many of them. And so I would say just try to be natural, because if you're always thinking that you need something to supplement what's already within you, it's going to become a problem, an addiction. Trying to move away from addictive patterns, even within meditation. That's why I said if you get orgasmic ecstasy, very careful with that, because you get addicted to that. I'm going to meditate now and bliss out. It's not about that. It's just allowing everything to come. But we're not adding on. We're not putting drugs into the system. And again, it's not a moral question, a bit like abortion, but it's intention. Always look at your intention, and also use some common sense, because there's so much crap out there that people are willingly putting into their bodies in terms of drugs, and yet they won't eat a particular gluten product or something. So it's not balanced. Or they won't have an injection, but they'll willingly ingest some psychedelic substance. So I don't know. I don't want to get into politics about it, but just I wouldn't recommend it. I've done drugs, and I've seen for myself, not as a nun, of course, but when I was a young person. And but you live and learn too. That's the other thing. So I'm not here to tell anyone what to do, but just offer a little bit of experience and try and save you the suffering that I went through. Yeah, but maybe that's not enough. People just have to learn for themselves. All right. Can you talk about the relationship between awareness and the story we are telling ourselves? Does recognizing awareness automatically change the stories, or is awareness indifferent to the story? Okay, it's an interesting question. So by the story, it's probably just the kind of habitual chatter pattern in the mind. And when something isn't a habitual storyline, whether it be a story about ourselves or a story about the other or a story about the world, awareness has an inherent wisdom to it, and it's hard to talk about the properties of awareness in the way that we might talk about the properties of the conceptual mind, because it is non-conceptual in itself. But we're using words to describe something that's non-conceptual. So just bear in mind those limitations. So when you bring full awareness into any habitual story pattern, it's an awakening moment. If it's true awareness and wisdom, if it's just another idea popped on another idea, it's the same pattern. And that's where people can fool themselves and think that they're in the zone. But in fact, they're just stuck in their head, interpreting something else in their head, if that makes sense. But when there's pure wisdom, which is awareness, then it just knows. And I wouldn't say it's indifferent. Awareness is actually also inherently compassionate, right? So detached, these words, indifferent, detached. So because when we say indifferent or detached, it can imply coldness or aloofness. But awareness is not aloof. It's when we're really immersed and connected with awareness, it's completely engaged and immersed in the experience and interested. And so compassion is there and wisdom is there. So yes, I would say that when that awareness is there, it does change. Well, it may not change the story. It just brings the story, the pattern, into light, into the light of awareness. And so seeing clearly with awareness and wisdom, we're shining the light on the delusion of the story about me, about the other. And it just dissolves. So it does it all by itself, because we see that there's no central player here who has to do and control. That very doing and controlling is what awareness sees. Look, this is going on all the time. And I suppose it might change the story, but the story doesn't become habitual or deluded, but it might there's no story anymore. The story stops. If we're defining the story, and I'm not sure where you're coming from exactly, but if the story is just a concept, an idea, then awareness dissolves all concepts and all ideas. Hence stories, if that's where you're coming from. So anyway, I hope that helps. Leslie says, thank you. Since I am now realizing that the result of this meditation for me is that the way our minds are manifested in our bodies. Yeah, how they interact. Good. Okay. So someone's listened to Ajahn Buddhadasa's, that's a great teaching on Nibbana. He makes it very real, here and now. So there's a question from Andrew. I struggle with avoidance-related stress. Sometimes when I meditate, I wonder afterwards if I have procrastinated on dealing with my stresses directly. When is it the time to meditate? Okay. Every moment is a time for meditation. In terms of formal meditation, it really depends on you and what time you have available when you can really switch off. Often, sometimes the early morning is the time I like to meditate the most. I love the quietness of the day and the stillness. If you can get up early, but not everyone's an early bird, so sometimes late at night is a good time. But when we say when is the time to meditate, every time is the time to meditate, to bring awareness into the moment and see what's going on. We don't have to be seated in a formal, still position to meditate, even though that's helpful and recommended. Because especially when you're starting out, it's very hard to see what's going on when there's movement and busyness. But the more you practice, the more you realize that meditation is with every breath. As Ajahn Chah used to say, actually, if you've got time to breathe, you've got time to meditate. So these things you've talked about, Andrew, in terms of avoidance-related stress and procrastination, I just say, just feeling into that question, don't kind of try and catch yourself out or start thinking, I have to figure this out or uproot this problem. Because if you're coming from that, it's quite stressful, actually. Just know, okay, you notice perhaps you have these tendencies of procrastination or avoiding stress. We all do. We want to move away from the unpleasant. It's part of the desire. We either move towards it, we want something, or we move away from it. So it's very natural. It's not anything special to you. But just start to notice those moments in every moment of your day where you're wanting to get away from something unpleasant. And to do it just to notice again in your body what's going on. This is how it grounds you in rather than just thinking about what avoidance-related stress means. What does it mean in your body? How do you feel in your body? Where's the tension? Where's the fires probably going? And then when you notice that kind of tension in your body, you can just use the breath as a way of noticing it in a compassionate way, and then grounding you back into the moment with full awareness that this is just a pattern, and my awareness and the breathing are putting this fire out, and it's dissolving all on its own. So perhaps just encourage you to move away of, I have to do something, I have to catch myself out, I have to do the right time to meditate. This is what we all do when we start out meditating. We set new goals. Oh my God, new ambitions. And then meditation becomes just another trip, another goal-orientated ambition, and people get into all sorts of nonsense with it. Achievement-orientated. It's the same old in the world out there. How am I doing? Am I making progress? Am I better than him? Am I worse than her? This is all, or am I better than myself? Just see all that, because that's actually the stress itself. And just be gentle and open. And we just look at all the judgments we have about ourselves and about others, and all the competitiveness and the jealousies, and that's what awareness does. It sees it. It's nothing personal, really. It's all just part of our conditioning. Okay. I think Leslie's just kind of said the same thing below your question, which is interesting, that you can all read Andrew too. When I move this mouse, the whole question thing just goes ba-doop. So then I lose track of where I'm up to. Someone said, have you met lineage masters? I'd love lineage masters. Well, I've met many masters. and been privileged to sit with many, and listen to their Dharma. So yeah, if you can. But I'm giving you the masters. There they are. Their words are there, even though their bodies aren't there, and you're not sitting in front of them. They've left so many pointers and wisdom that you can tune into, because it is contained in their words, in their teachings. So you can feel like, even though it's coming through my voice, that the purity of their words and wisdom is there. So you're meeting them as if for the first time, and they're still there. This energy doesn't ever die or get destroyed. Okay, thank you. Dave, what about meds prescribed by a psychiatrist? Well, that's a very different intention, Dave. When we're talking about medications, if we take medicine to help us because we're sick, physically or mentally, the intention is to help us. It's not, and the psychiatrist or doctor's intention is to help and harm. So it always comes back to intention. But if we're taking drugs just to zone out or get away from something unpleasant because we think this particular reality is boring or mundane, and so I just want a high, just look at that. Whenever you're reaching out, it's just another desire to get something or get away. Yeah, and I guess it is in terms of sickness too, but it's all about balance. You don't want someone to keep suffering mental illness, and maybe for a time drugs, medications can help them so they're not psychotic. But anyone who's on that for the rest of their life, it's not very balanced either. So it's very hard. It's very difficult. So anyway, intention. There's no match for this natural source of energy, this freedom to choose. Yeah. You're welcome, Marg. Okay, so Thomas has a question. Do you think the Vipassana movement is healthy? I became very disillusioned with it, and I feel it actually harmed me. I'm talking about the course where you go to meditate for 10 hours a day for 10 days. Yeah, well, as most of you know, that's where I started meditation, and I got a huge amount out of it. But I also saw the imbalance there. So I feel for you, Tom. I know where you're coming from, but it's not inherently bad or unhealthy. It's complicated. It can offer people an introduction, a portal to meditation and spirituality, but it is you're being thrown in the deep end, and I guess you'd say it's an extreme introduction to meditation. And it might work for some people. It worked for me. It was amazing. But as I went on, I saw how I needed to balance it with wisdom and more balanced practice, because talking about addictions and drugs and meditation as a drug, I became kind of slightly addicted to going on retreat after retreat after retreat, probably as an avoidance strategy in some ways, because you just get into these kind of blissful states and zones. But I did also want to look at what was going on, honestly. But it's about integration too. So if we're just escaping into meditation, it's no better than just escaping into drugs. We have to get the balance right. And if we're forcing ourselves to sit for 10 or 12 hours a day and push through the pain in those courses, which is often what is encouraged to do, then people can explode and they go off. And I saw many people go off. So yeah, they can be harmful. And there is, a few years ago, I read that there was a dialogue being encouraged by Zen meditation teachers and other teachers with the Vipassana, the Goenka specifically, to talk about the increase of psychotic episodes through these 10-day courses, because people are seeing them in the emergency rooms. Unfortunately, they didn't want to engage in the dialogue. So, but if you Google out there, find some well-informed stuff. I can't remember the Zen teacher. I think it was Jeff someone who started it. Jeff Dawson? He might have started it. Let's talk about it, because it's not all good, certainly not all bad. It's probably more good than bad, but there's these issues, so we need to talk about them. So he's created a dialogue around them. So if you want to read more about that. So I hope for you, Thomas, that you can find or have found a more balanced practice then, and it doesn't mean you don't go on retreats, but the retreats you go on might be a little bit more grounding, a bit more balanced. That's all it's about, isn't it? Okay. So Dan's said that he gets a lot more from the no music playlist. Will you continue posting more to it? Yeah, I do a balance. Some people love the music and find the whole point of using music, and it's mostly just minimalist ambient, is to help calm and soothe the nervous system as well. A lot of people get a lot out of that, myself included. And the music is stimulating, talking to the non-conceptual part of the brain. The words often enter the conceptual. So it's about trying to get the brain, the left and right hemispheres in balance with the music being there in the background. And it calms and enters into the heart often. I don't always do it. I certainly don't do it in more of the Dharma talks, like in the Theravadan playlist. And so then the encouragement is still to try and listen in a non-conceptual way. So there's hopefully a balance on my channel where I'll just intuitively think this needs music, this doesn't need music. People aren't always going to agree or like it, but that's the way it is. If you have an aversion to music, I would just look at that, right? Or if you have aversion to no music, look at that. Because wherever we've got these aversions, it's worth looking at, because there's nothing wrong with the music. Something's going on within that's saying, I don't like music, music's no good, or everything should have music. Okay, just see if you can work with it. It can be a great help for people. So that's why I include it. But I also know that sometimes it's nice just to have the silence between the words too. But the silence is always there, even if there's music. That's the thing to realize. The silence doesn't mean no sound. The silence permeates even when there's sound and music. So this is where we need to kind of get to eventually. So Elsa says, when I stay quiet, I recognize something genuinely pure, but I became again a person, and my mind makes me confuse my mind. My mind makes me confused. My mind always then manages my life again and again like a Torvalin. Yeah, that's right. It's a bit of going into the stillness, into the purity of awareness and letting that do its stuff. And then we come out and we find things get stirred up. It's natural. We're not all just abiding in this non-conceptual, pure nibbana all the time yet. One day. So we are what we are, and we just keep working. The more we can accept what's presenting itself and not make demands that it should be another way, or I want to get to this reality, whether it's through meditation or drugs. that's just going to compound the problem because we're always trying to get away from something. So what's happening here and now, to accept that and to open up to that, even if it's boring and mundane or painful. We don't try to escape, right? We just go into it. And going into it, you've got to go into something and come out of it. That's what, Whereas if you try and just force it to change using whatever method or tool you have, it's just pushing it down. It's go into and transform. It's alchemy, isn't it? It's like transforming it, it's transmuting it. So it's fine if confusion comes up after your meditation. If you appear again as an ego, you've got to anyway to function in the world. But if you're trying to get away from that because you have an idea of what you think it should be, a perfect ideal, then that's just the cause of suffering. And so that's your teacher there and then. Look at that. I always tripping on this idea of perfection. When I get there, we're always trying to get there, becoming, I want to get there, I want to be perfect, I want to be enlightened, I want to be free, or whatever. Rather than, okay, there's this shitty thought in my mind, narky thought, it's me. Oh, great, we can look at that. It's, and be with it with compassionate awareness. It dissolves. We don't have to forcefully meditate it away, distract ourselves, or take a drug. We just go into the mundane, so-called mundane, boring reality, and it transforms into something else. And in that way, we're empowering ourselves because we're present and accepting and open. All right. Hope that's helpful, Elsa. You're doing good. That's the thing. You're doing fine. Alexander, so it's nearly, I'm going to have to take just a couple more questions if you're okay with that. Time flies. Can you tell me, please, about 5 aspects of consciousness? No, I can't. More or less would also satisfy these teachings feel like honey. I'm not sure what your question means about 5 aspects of consciousness, what tradition you're referring to. So I can't answer that because I probably wouldn't answer it correctly. Sorry. I'm not sure where you're coming from. Sorry. Where are we? Something easy. I've lost you. Where are we? Okay, during meditation, should we put an effort to not judge our thoughts, or should we let awareness itself? Yeah, I think I just answered that, Samir, didn't I? So awareness itself dissolves all these thoughts anyway. One of the thoughts is a judgmental thought. So just see it. I'm judging myself. I'm forcing myself. I'm weighing myself. I'm measuring myself, comparing myself. This is what we do. And just notice it without judging it. Or, pure awareness doesn't judge anyway. And it's not you. It's not personal. It's just conditioning. Is there a connection with Ajahn Chah and Buddhadasa? I'm sure they would have met. I'm not the best person to ask, but they were certainly around at the same time. I know Ajahn Sumedho met and admired Ajahn Buddhadasa. He was Ajahn Chah's primary Western disciple. Good question. I mean, they probably didn't travel that much in those days, and they didn't have, when I say those days, 80s and 90s. And Ajahn Chah was, he was unconscious, well, not unconscious totally, but he was immobilized for 10 years, the last 10 years of his life. So he wouldn't have been traveling. I'm not sure. Be interesting, actually, to find out if those two great masters ever met. Someone's asked, why did I decide to leave monasticism? Why did you choose to enter monasticism? Well, from the storyline, I could say why. But from the awareness aspect is, I don't know, just happen. Things happen. And karmically, I was destined to just do that, earlier period, and then was drawn back into it. Because I can tell you the story, but that's not really the truth. The truth is that just things happen due to causes and conditions, karmic conditions, and the time was right to re-enter. That may not be a very satisfying answer, but it is the truth. Because I don't want to make it about me and my story and my personal preferences, because it's not really the truth. Okay? When we just allow things to happen and unfold as they will, we're much more in tune with our authentic, I don't want to call it a self, but you know what I mean, our authentic unfolding. Last question, if that's all right, folks, from Born in a Washing Machine. Why were you born in a washing machine? After doing metta meditations for 2 weeks, I feel unrecognizable stage. Feeling sorry, love, and feel not attachments. It is something wrong. Where am I it? Where am I? Okay, just try and decipher your question. You feel unrecognizable. You're feeling sorry, love, and feel not. I'm not sure if I'm going to answer this question properly because I'm not sure I understand it that well, but I'm sensing that perhaps you're feeling a lot of sadness or you're feeling detached. And just to say in general, so I don't give you the wrong kind of response, it's when you practice metta, all sorts of things can get triggered. That's with any meditation. But sometimes with metta meditation, because we are focusing on trying to generate loving kindness, the opposite can happen, because for various reasons, we just feel unworthy. We feel that it's too much to feel loving kindness. The world's too full of suffering, so it can bring up these kind of extreme feelings of sadness and overwhelmingness at the suffering of the world, or we just feel angry, It's again, it's very natural. So when that's happening, the most important thing to do is to send metta to yourself. All right? I'm feeling this way, whatever it is that you're trying to describe there, whether you feel overwhelming sadness or cool detachment and hatred, just notice that those feelings come and go too. It's not who and what you are, and they're not permanent. So when you're feeling them or you're feeling a great aversion towards them, those very feelings, that's where the metta practice has to start. Forget about others for now. If you're caught in this maelstrom of whatever, just say, may I be okay with this? May I bring compassion to myself, so that when we have compassion and acceptance of ourselves, then we're able to bring that to others. But if we don't have that within ourselves, if we're completely weighed down with the troubles of the world, or anger or sadness, it's impossible to feel loving kindness towards ourselves. And if it's coming from a feeling of I should be feeling loving kindness and being a spiritual person, that has to be seen through. We can't just be these ideals, because ideals aren't real anyway. They're just ideals. So just be with what is. I'm feeling angry or dreadfully sad. You're the one that needs the metta. So turn it towards yourself. And by metta, I just mean compassionate acceptance of whatever is. Don't try to change it. Just be with it. Hold it as you would hold a crying baby. You start shaking the baby, the baby's going to start crying, screaming. put your hand over it, you'll suffocate it. Just hold it. Eventually it'll calm down, and it'll calm down a lot faster if you can hold it with loving compassion. And that is your metta practice. So if we're doing metta, thinking we're doing metta, it's another trap, isn't it? I've got to do metta. I've done metta. I know how to do metta. But you're not doing metta. You are metta. You bring it into the very fabric of your being through awareness too. Everything comes back to this awareness and settling into that. And metta is a natural outflow or expression of pure awareness. So you don't have to do it or create it. You just have to, not have to, I mean, these words are problematic. Just gently tune into your natural awareness. So I'm going to leave it there now and wish you all the best. And Ayajatindriya will be with you in a fortnight. A couple of things to mention before we tune off. YouTube have updated or changed some of the layout on the app, is that what you call it, their website. And now they've put the live streams, they used to all be in the video tab. Now they've created a new tab, which is a good thing, but it's probably confused people, called live. So all the live streams now from my homepage get saved in the live tab if you're looking for it. And it happened after Ayajatindriya's session last fortnight. So I think a lot of people weren't able to find it because it wouldn't just come up on the video page. So just to point out to you, if you're looking for the archive, I mean, it's in the archive playlist, but they're also in the live tab now. It's a new tab, okay? And they all look different on phones and laptops and, the Apple ones. So I don't know, the joys of technology. So anyway, wish you all the best, sending all blessings to everyone out there, and hope practice is going well in the sense that you're just relaxing, okay? We're not out to achieve anything. We're just feeling less and less baggage that we're carrying around, including the baggage of trying to achieve something in meditation. And as I think I mentioned earlier, that the Buddha meditation, I'll post it in the more professional recording on my channel, and then you can encourage you all to do that as a healing meditation, something helpful to do. So take care, everyone, and I'll see you in a month, and Ayajatindriya will be here in a fortnight. And we're going to end the stream now. Sayonara and goodbye.